-9 passing yards. That's how many passing yards the Giants had against the Jets yesterday. And still, with 1:25 seconds left, the Giants had a 97.9% chance to win that game. And they lost 13-10. Truly infuriating stuff. So without further ado, let's get right into this episode. Welcome to the third episode of the BG Show. My name is Bryce Gelman, and today, and apologies for the hoarse voice, I just have to throw that disclaimer out there that, as you can imagine, yesterday was not too kind on the vocal cords after what we all witnessed in that last 24 seconds against a porous Jets offense. I had to let this one marinate. I was going to post something last night. I was going to sit down to record. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. It wasn't like there was a great Sunday night football game on. To be honest, I couldn't care less about the game. I couldn't care less about the final score. Chargers versus Bears. What an awful game. Awful game. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't flip the mic on. I couldn't turn my light on. I couldn't do it. I needed a night to process. I barely slept last night. I'll be honest. I was up thinking about that loss. I know that's a crazy thing to say, but it was just the most infuriating loss that I've witnessed as a Giants fan since the Deshaun Jackson game against the Eagles over 10 years ago. That's how long it's been. The amount of bad Giants teams we've witnessed over the last 5, 6, 7 years since the 2015 playoffs. And this is the worst loss in that stretch. Last year was a fluke. Let's just get that out of the way. Last year was a fluke. The Giants make the playoffs. They win the first round against the Vikings. Daniel Jones doesn't make one mistake. And this year, expectations are high. Everyone is high on not only the roster, but the coaching staff. And what has happened this year is a complete 180 and proves that what we witnessed last year is not something that we should expect going forward. And it brings me to this. And I know there was a lot out there defending this one guy, but the entire loss yesterday has to fall on the shoulders of Brian Daboll. It has to. Say what you want about Tyrod Taylor getting hurt, Tommy DeVito not being able to throw the ball. You still were in a position to win the game, and you didn't. You played not to lose. You didn't play to win. What did we see last year? The first game against the Titans. Brian Daboll comes down the field, scores with a minute left, and instead of kicking the extra point to tie the game and send it to overtime, he goes for 2. How does that get rewarded? With Giants fans and my guest last week, Sean Marash, going out screaming at the top of their lungs, thanking the heavens that the Giants were able to win a football game. And for the first time in 6 years, the Giants were above 500 at one point in the season. That's the Brian Daboll we knew and loved last year. It's not the Brian Daboll of this year. It is not. This is a whole different mindset, and in turn, it's a whole different team. Without the injuries, which aside, can't blame injuries. Can't. But without injuries, this team should be 4-4. They should be 3-5 at the least. Instead, a neck injury to Daniel Jones a couple weeks ago. He doesn't play in the Buffalo game. The Giants still almost win that game. And in this game, Tyrod Taylor goes down in the second quarter, and touchdown Tommy comes in, who apparently can't throw the ball down the field. Apparently, the Giants saw what they saw in training camp. They saw what they saw in the preseason, and they decided if we ever have to put this guy into the game, we will not be throwing the ball down the field. Which brings me to my next point. Fairly, people have criticized Brian Daboll for not signing a serviceable backup to the practice squad, not named Tommy DeVito, when Daniel Jones went down with injury. Because Tyrod Taylor has had this injury history, it makes sense why you would do it. Understood that going into this game, no one expected, Tyrod Taylor could get hurt, that Tommy DeVito is going to play it. you got to expect the unexpected in the NFL with the amount of injuries that have happened this year, especially at quarterbacks and especially at MetLife Stadium. You have to expect the unexpected. You got to sign a practice squad guy who you know could come in and actually throw the ball down the field. Sign Colt McCoy, sign whoever. It doesn't matter. Get a guy on this team. Get a guy into East Rutherford, into the practice, into the field, the practice field, and get this guy ready to go if anything happens. But instead, you're left with Tommy DeVito. Touchdown Tommy, to his credit, actually scored a touchdown, put the Giants up in this game. But not to his credit, could not throw the ball down the field. Not like he was given the chance to. There were multiple mistakes in this game, though. Not even just blaming the fact that they left Tommy out to dry. It's the fact that Brian Daboll made two major mistakes in this game. You could argue three. The first one being sending Graham Gano out for the 47-yard field goal in wet conditions with a hurt kicker. It was announced before the game, pretty subtly, that Graham Gano had a left knee injury that will require surgery in the offseason. So what does Brian Daboll do? In the wet, cold conditions at MetLife Stadium, he sends him out for a 47-yard field goal that would make it 7-6. On a normal day, understood. That's a good idea. Send one of your best players in the last 3-4 years out to make the field goal. Get it. I get it. Totally. But your kicker is hurt. And not only is he hurt, the conditions do not meet the play that he called, which was a field goal. You don't listen. I understand if these situations were different. If there was an overwhelming majority of people calling for Daboll to not go for it on fourth down, whatever. It's a 4th and 5 from the 40-yard line. You want to kick the 50-plus yarder. I get it. But that's not the situation that Daboll was dealing with. It was a 4th and short from the Jets' territory where the Jets couldn't move the ball at all. You give them the ball at the 35-yard line, which they did when he missed the field goal. It's okay. It's okay. It won't amount to anything. And it didn't amount to anything. So why Daboll would do that is beyond me. And what this now brings about for this Giants offense is a lack of confidence. Because when your head coach refuses to send you out on 4th and short because he doesn't trust you, how could you possibly trust yourself? And that happened not only once, but twice. Not only in that first half, but in the fourth quarter as well. Which brings me to Brian Daboll's second mistake, which is sending out the field goal unit at the end of the game to make it a 6-point game. When your kicker hasn't made one field goal over 30, whatever the first field goal was a 30-yarder. He didn't make the 47-yarder, so now you expect him to make this 33-yarder or whatever it was. And he comes out. He's hurt. Conditions didn't get any drier. It's still wet on the field, and he misses the field goal. So instead of going for it on 4th and 1 with your star running back who you so relied on this game, you decide to send out a hurt kicker who had already missed earlier in the game just to give the Jets the ball at the exact same spot. I mean, there was no potential downside to going for it on 4th down. So what? You get stuffed. Fine. You get stuffed. The Jets still have to do exactly what they did because you missed the field goal. And if you get it, the game's over. Even if you make the field goal, the Jets have a chance to come down the field, albeit it's incredibly unlikely that they do, but they still have a chance to come down the field and win the game. Not even just tie it, win the game. This type of decision can derail an entire offense for the rest of the year. These types of decisions can derail an entire offense confidence for the rest of the year. That's where we sit right now with the Giants. An incompetent offense capped by what this head coach has allowed them to do. Yes, they have not been efficient at moving the ball. Yes, they have not been efficient at throwing the ball down the field. But now they don't have confidence to go along with it. And now Daniel Jones is cleared for contact. Great. Awesome. But you're 2-6. It's time to sell. It's time to get rid of Adoree Jackson. It's time to get rid of Leonard Williams. It's time to get rid of any player you do not see a future with for this team or on this team. Just because you didn't win 2 games when you should have won both of them. The Bills game and this Jets game. And that decision down the stretch, fine. They don't get it. They missed the field goal. You still should win that game. So with 24 seconds left, the Jets need to go 35 yards down the field. What defense do the Giants come out in? Prevent defense. Why? They don't need a Hail Mary to win this game. They need a field goal. Run cover 3. Run man for all I care. Doesn't matter. Don't let them go 30 yards down the field and kick the field goal. And what does Zach Wilson do on the first play of the drive? He finds Garrett Wilson for a 30-yard gain, gives the Jets even then, there was a potential game-tying field goal. Greg Zuerlein has 3 kicks over 60 yards, which I think is tied for or second most all time. He's not called Greg the Leg for no reason. So you give them that opportunity. To make matters worse, Kayvon Thibodeau, who we'll get into a little bit later, who had an awesome game, jumps off sides, stops the clock, gives the Jets not 1 but 2 more plays to tie the game. And the next play, the Giants defense breaks down, leaves Allen Lazard wide open, sets up the Jets for the game-tying field goal. Yeah. And just like that 97.9% chance for the Giants to win that game goes up in smoke, just like that. Because of 3 awful coaching decisions. 3 awful coaching decisions. The Giants should have been up 6 at that point in the first place. Could have been up 9 if Graham Gano actually makes his field goals, if he wasn't hurt, if Brian Daboll didn't trust him, if Brian Daboll actually trusted his offense. And the game's over. But instead, the Giants defense, for whatever reason, loses everything that they had in that game going for them and allows Zach Wilson to drive the length of the field and tie the game, setting it to overtime. This loss could have only happened if 3 to 4 things went wrong, and all 3 to 4 of those things went wrong. And you could look anywhere to blame. Ultimately, in this league, the blame falls on the head coach, especially when there are a multitude of decisions that happen in said game made by the head coach that end up backfiring. I outlined 3 of them. 1 is Wink Martindale's fault, but that's the coaching staff. That's 3. Brian Daboll has the ability to override Wink Martindale. He could be, hey, why are we running prevent defense when the Jets need 30 yards? They don't need 50. They don't need a Hail Mary here. Why are our safeties and our corners 30, 40 yards down the field? Can't Zach Wilson make a play 25, 30 yards down the field to a wide open Garrett Wilson? Well, that's exactly what he did. And Deonte Banks, you got a lot to learn. I was extremely high on you going into this game, but you got absolutely lit up by Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson had like 90, well, I mean, this isn't a crazy stat. He had like 90 plus more yards than all of the Giants receivers combined. It's a product of not being able to throw the ball down the field for 3/4 of the game. So now the Giants sit at 2-6 following this game. And I don't know if you can have a more demoralizing loss. And on the flip side for the Jets, are you really happy about that win? Are you sitting comfortably at home, knowing that instead of 3-4, you're 4-3 now? I don't know. A win's a win. A win's a win at the end of the day, but you had no business being that close to that Giants team. And you can give all the credit you want to the Giants defense. The fact that the Giants couldn't put up more than 7 points, and the only reason they scored 7 points is because of the takeaways and a big Saquon run here and there. The fact that you even allowed those 7 points, those 7 offensive points, the touchdown at least, and the field goal, and the 3 field goal chances that the Giants should have converted all 3, it's not a win. It's not a win. And I know Jets fans are on their high horses because they beat the Giants in this once every 4 years matchup. They're now 3-0 in the last 3 games that they played against the Giants in this every 4-year rivalry. And they do have good reason to clown Giants fans after what we witnessed. But deep down, I don't think there are many Jets fans who are truly satisfied with this win. Last thing we'll talk about on this episode, I had mentioned we're going to get into it, is Kayvon Thibodeau, who, for a bunch of reasons, was all over the news because of what happened on the BT and Sal show on WFAN. I really like that show. I think those two guys know what they're talking about for the most part. I think Sal says stuff that he doesn't believe sometimes, or says stuff that he believes for no reason. And it makes for some entertaining radio, but what they did the other day, hanging up on Carl Banks, going against Carl Banks, who, I get it, can sometimes come off as a bit of a homer, but you have him on your show. He's a legendary linebacker. You show him the respect that he deserves. You don't hang up on the guy. And look how much that backfired. Carl Banks defends Kayvon Thibodeau. BT and Sal say, I haven't seen much from him. I have no idea what you're talking about. And Kayvon comes out and has the best game of this season for him. And the best game he's played since the last game against Washington last year. Kayvon is for real. He deserves all the credit that is coming towards him. He should have 2 pick sixes in this season. He should be up there for Defensive Player of the Year honors. But he really took that criticism and ran with it and had an incredible game. The 2 sacks on that second to last drive, which should have ended the game on Zach Wilson. He looked like every bit of that 5th overall selection and the potential they expected in him that the Giants took. And the Giants instilled in him by starting him from day one and hyping him up as the next great edge rusher for the Giants. His speed is unmatched on the edge. He doesn't have many moves, but as long as he can get past whatever tackle he's going up against and he makes plays off the ball, if he's all over the field, the Giants are very appreciative, and the fans, by extension, of what Kayvon brings to the table, and they could finally pat themselves on the back and say, hey, we got one of these draft picks right, because the other guy is a bum. He's a bust. He's now hurt. You can't expect him to even perform when he's healthy. He hasn't had a game in the top 20 in the PFF rankings. He is one of the worst tackles in the league. So this is honestly the best thing that's ever happened to Joe Schoen and company, especially with what's happening right now with this team. Is there's one silver lining. It's that they didn't F up this decision to draft Kayvon Thibodeau. And good for Tibbs. Good for him, man. He really took the criticism in stride. That's what we need here in New York. Because you can't just run from the criticism. You can't just run from the negative reactions from the fans. You can't play into it either. You just sit there, shake your head, show up the next week, and perform. And that's exactly what Kayvon did. And all the credit belongs to him. Good for him. Hopefully he can build on this. And he'll be able to showcase why even more now that he was one of the top picks in the 2022 draft. Because hopefully the Giants will sell now. After this loss, the Giants dropped to 2-6. As I had mentioned before, there was no reason why the Giants should hold on to these veteran pieces that the only reason you had in the first place was to win. So now you're not winning. And you're not going to win. It's an easy schedule coming up. Don't get me wrong. But just give up. Give up this season. I'm still going to root for the Giants to win each and every one of their upcoming games. Sell. Get rid of these guys while you can. Acquire assets. Acquire draft picks. Acquire unfinished products like Isaiah Simmons, who they got in the preseason. Regroup and come back strong next year. Get a high draft pick. Draft a quarterback. Draft whoever. Get Marvin Harrison Jr. Get that incredible wide receiver you've been looking for since the Eagles jumped you in the 2021 draft to get Devonta Smith. It's right in front of them. It is, as Aaron Boone likes to say. But it really is. It's in front of the Giants to win these games, but it's also in front of the Giants to make the right decision and decide enough is enough. Let's accumulate some assets and let's set ourselves up for success in the future. I don't think that's a crazy concept. It's especially with how much trust Brian Daboll has in this offense. Who's to expect this team is going to win 5 of the next 6 games to put themselves back in playoff contention? Even then, you have 7 losses. The best you could do is 10-7, and you play the Eagles twice, and you play the Cowboys one more time. All 3 of those are losses. So at best, you end up with 9 to 10 losses, and you don't make the playoffs. And guess what? You don't have a top 10 pick. You have 11, 12, or 13. You might have 9 or 10, but you don't have the opportunity to take a surefire, solid player in this league. Make the right decision, Joe Shane. Don't listen to Mara and Tish, who guaranteed are going to be in his ear saying, "Don't sell these guys. We need people to show up to the stadium. We need to give people a reason to root for this team still." I can't believe they lost that game. I still can't believe it, because we'd be sitting here talking completely differently if the Giants actually showed some competence down the stretch, if Brian Daboll actually made the right decisions and the Giants came out on top, which they didn't. But they didn't. And now it's time to face reality. And man, I really hope I never witness a loss of that magnitude again. I really hope that I don't. I wish I could have gotten into more of the Jets talk, because we're going to be talking Jets on this channel too. But as a Giants fan, I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to absolutely rip this organization, to rip this coaching staff, and to correct people's takes on not being able to blame Brian Daboll for this loss, who's completely at blame. And this loss completely falls on his shoulders, as I've outlined in this video. So hopefully we'll be able to do a little Jets talk. We might have a special guest or two coming on later this week. But hey, man, the Jets got the win. Congrats to them. I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but I called it completely nail on the head. 13-10, Jets win. I predicted that in One Giant Step. I predicted that in episode 2 of the BG show. So congratulations to me. I wish it didn't happen the way it did. I wish the Jets were up 13-3 and the Giants scored a meaningless last-second touchdown. But that's not the way it happened, but I still was right. So congratulations to me. And congratulations to the Jets and the Jets fan. The Jets fan that for the next 4 years has something to boast about to the Giants fan. Unfairly, though, because the Jets shouldn't have won that game, but they are going to. And, congratulations to them on this major victory, winning a game you had no business winning, in which your opponent had -9 passing yards. All right, that'll do it for episode 3 of the BG show. Should have something again, as I said, coming later this week with special guests talking about the Jets. And we're going to be talking Knicks. Don't worry, that preview show wasn't the only one we'll be doing anytime soon. They had a brutal loss against the Pelicans, in which only 1 to 2 guys on the team actually showed up. It's a back-to-back. Can't really blame them for that. But hopefully there'll be some positive things to talk about for the Knicks. All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you later this week.